Hey, what's going on everyone? Welcome to the Sex and Grits channel where steez is my expertise and street fashion is my passion. Big news coming from Birkenstock. They're currently interviewing banks for their first ever IPO. So a lot of you may not be familiar with L. Catterton. It's a private equity firm that is also backed by Louis Vuitton. They purchased a majority stake in Birkenstock 2 years ago with a company valuation of $4.9 billion. They're currently interviewing banks right now for their first initial public offering or IPO, looking for a $6 billion valuation. They had $250 million in EBITDA over the first 6 months of the year, which is crushing their competitors such as Crocs and Doc Marten. One of the things that is kind of interesting though is that a lot of market experts aren't projecting this IPO to yield major results. But this will be a big opportunity for Birkenstock to make a big splash in the streetwear market, just like Crocs has done, just like Doc Martens. And I'm going to tell you guys 3 ways on how that is going to happen. Number 1, bring out the fine china. What do I mean by that? Currently, Birkenstock does not have a big footprint in the Chinese market. They're big in Europe, they're big in the US, but the Chinese market, they've never really had established market share in that segment. So what I think they need to do is, number 1, they need to start indexing their advertising, their brand campaigns into the Chinese market. There's reports that the Chinese economy is cooling off a little bit, but as long as Birkenstock gives them a reason to shop, gives them a reason to spend money, then regardless of what the economy is doing in China, people are gonna spend money. And so one of the things that I've been reading up on is a lot of Chinese streetwear enthusiasts are sort of shying away from those bigger brands, right? Like those Nikes, those Louis Vuittons. Still gonna be big, not gonna say it's just completely evaporated, but one of the things that they're looking for and what I think is going to be important for Birkenstock is to start focusing on partnerships with small to mid-sized Chinese local brands. That is going to make a big splash in the Chinese market. There's also been some controversy surrounding some big American brands like Nike and Adidas who have refused to source cotton from certain regions in China due to allegations of forced labor. Now, the Chinese have strongly refuted these allegations and have even deemed them to be anti-Chinese, and this is also carried over into the Chinese influencer market, who are also refusing to work with American brands. So if Birkenstock can find a way to partner with Chinese-bred brands such as Roaring Wild and Random Movement, I think there's definitely gonna be some opportunity to grow their market share. And that's going to create a lot of excitement in the Chinese market. I think one of the things is in streetwear, Chinese have always been at the forefront of what style is. China and Japan have always been at the forefront of what's cool in streetwear. They're always searching for what's new. So if Birkenstock can sort of break that mold and sort of find a way into a road that's less traveled, because they've done partnerships with bigger high fashion brands such as Dior, they've done it with Fear of God, and these are all brands that the Chinese have long since known. So if they can sort of infiltrate a market that's really indexed to Chinese brands, then I really feel that they'll be doing something completely different than other big brands that have been looking for partnerships have done in the past. And again, that's gonna really get the Chinese excited, and it's gonna get them to care more about Birkenstock, right? Which again, they previously haven't. There's not a big footprint in the Chinese market for Birkenstock. So if they can find a way into that, I think that is the way they should do it. Don't focus on the big brands, focus on the Chinese local brands that the Chinese know and care about. If they can bridge that together, it sounds like a recipe for success. All right, number 2, wrap it up. What do I mean by that? Birkenstock should use rappers as brand ambassadors to help promote their products. I'm talking about use someone that is relevant currently, like Lil Uzi Vert, maybe someone like Jack Harlow, or Snoop Dogg, right? Snoop Dogg is on everything. Yeah, he's a little bit older, but I'll tell you this, Snoop Dogg has transcended age. Snoop Dogg has transcended irrelevance. And whether you're 10 years old or 50 years old, you know who Snoop Dogg is, you know his personality, you know what he brings to the table, and other brands have really adopted that, and Snoop Dogg is literally on everything. So one of the things we all saw was Snoop Dogg was in those Corona commercials. So back in the pandemic, March 2020, Snoop Dogg started brand campaigning for Corona. And what did that do? In less than 5 months, Corona saw their sales revenue grow by 17%. So they obviously know that there's a formula with rappers, right? Rap is almost synonymous with streetwear, right? Like streetwear, you see streetwear on rappers all the time. Rap is always going to be in vogue in terms of what's cool, what people care about, what are the streetwear influencers looking at. So I think Birkenstock can replicate that, because the perception of Birkenstock is probably the antithesis of what rap culture is. And I think if they can leverage brand ambassadors, such as the ones that I mentioned or others, again, it's going to make it cool. So again, Skechers, right? Like no one cared about Skechers. In terms of the swag meter, Skechers was always at the low end of the totem pole. But with Snoop Dogg repping Skechers, you can't help but think they're at least a little bit cool, right? So again, not saying that I or others are gonna clamor to go buy a bunch of Skechers, but the perception of Skechers is different with Snoop Dogg as the face of the company. So Birkenstock, they can easily do the same thing. Birkenstocks are definitely have more upside than I think a brand like Skechers does. And they've already shown that. They've had tremendous growth. Birkenstocks have been around since 1966, right? And they've sort of gone through these cyclical cycles. Like in the 90s, they were sort of like this bohemian, like hippie-ish, like new hippie-ish sort of wear that was like comfortable. I mean, as a little kid, I think I had some Birkenstocks. But now, they've sort of evolved into this new sort of wave of like comfortable chic, especially when we hit the pandemic a few years back. Everyone likes that comfortable wear. But then now, like with the high fashion collaborators such as Dior, Rick Owens, Fear of God, now you're seeing, okay, there's a new step in evolution with Birkenstocks and really what it could be. Birkenstocks can be styled with so many different things. And again, I think there's an opportunity for them with this IPO that they can sort of utilize to frame it. And honestly, using brand ambassadors, specifically rappers, is going to really push their product forward, and it's going to make people care, young people care. And number 3, and the last point, that Birkenstock will be the biggest brand in streetwear, is going down the slide. And what do I mean by that? Slides have been enormously popular in the streetwear world. Obviously, we've seen Yeezy, we've seen Balenciaga, Palm Angels. I mean, they've done so much in the slide wear market. Everyone loves slides. Everyone loves slides. I have a bunch. Everyone loves them. They're comfortable. You can style them at the pool. You can style them just, running errands, going to the grocery store, whatever. And the interesting thing about Birkenstocks is, of course, they're not known for their slides. They're known for that classic Birkenstock look that everyone is accustomed to. Now, Birkenstock has a couple slides, but it's a very, very small part of their overall inventory. And what I think they need to do is that they need to bring out more. They need to index more. They need to lean in more to slides. Slides are extremely popular. So the slides that they do have are honestly pretty cool. They have a very simple design. They look comfortable. They're pretty affordable, coming in only $35. So if they can sort of put in that product experimentation and lean more into the slides market, which again is not going anywhere, I think that that's really going to push them even forward and making them the biggest streetwear brand. Now, I will say that I don't think that they should lose their total identity. I don't think they should just completely pivot and just start making slides and going away from what has made them so successful over the last several decades, because I don't think that would be authentic. But what I will say is that they need to understand what is working and what is going to sell. And I think if they can create a little bit more balance in the slides market, then, coupled with the fact that they can focus on brand collaborations, like I mentioned before, they can lean into that Chinese market. And if they can sort of marry all those together, hey, I think Birkenstocks will be the biggest streetwear brand. And it's not that hard. So the IPO is definitely big for the company. I think there's big expectations for them. They've grown tremendously over the last decade. And I think a lot of market experts, again, aren't very bullish on their outcome of an IPO. But for them to capitalize on it, they need to go streetwear, and those are the ways that they'll be able to do it. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Please like and subscribe. If you don't like the content, it's all good. Please let me know. But until next time, later.